Without food, humans can typically survive for over a week. But without water, survival rarely lasts more than 3 days. This is because water makes up about 60% of the human body, and without it for an extended period, the organs cannot function properly. Eventually, dehydration leads to organ failure and death. Therefore, water is the most essential and vital element for life. However, because water is so ubiquitous and familiar, we often lose our curiosity about it. We no longer question how water came to exist on Earth. Why do all living creatures originally thrive in water? Does water truly nourish life as we know it? While over 70% of Earth's surface is covered by water, the origin of this water remains a profound mystery. This is one of the most difficult questions to explain, with no clear answers yet. Recently, a new discovery in the scientific community has drawn attention regarding the origin of water on Earth. An article published in Nature claimed that scientists from the University of Münster, Germany, through isotope analysis of meteorite samples from Lake Tagus, Colombia, and samples from Earth's mantle, have shown that water appeared on Earth much later than previously predicted. This discovery largely contradicts the earlier belief held by many scientists, who argued that water was formed from the crust of meteorites during Earth's formation. However, what is even more intriguing is that the story of water's formation on Earth was already mentioned in an ancient Babylonian epic about the creation of the world, discovered nearly 200 years ago. What is remarkable is how many details in this epic perfectly align with today's scientific findings to the point of astonishment. So what does this really mean? Is there a connection between mythology and modern science? Today we dive into the age-old mystery. Where did the water on Earth come from? In ancient Babylon, there was an epic about the creation of the world called Animals, discovered in 1849 in the ruins of the Ashur Library, the capital of the ancient Assyrian Empire, now Iraq. Animals is about 1,000 lines long and was written in ancient Babylonian on 7 clay tablets, each containing 115 to 170 lines. This epic is one of the most important sources for understanding the Babylonian worldview. It describes the era before the birth of anything. The epic tells of a goddess who governs the salty waters of the world and a god named Apsu who governs the fresh waters. These two deities united and gave birth to the first generation of gods. As time passed, the gods multiplied rapidly, reaching the 4th generation, each stronger and wiser than the last. However, the rapid proliferation of gods led to constant arguments and conflicts. The noise from these disputes became unbearable, and Apsu began to regret bringing such chaotic offspring into existence. Apsu, determined to deal with his descendants, conspired with the goddess Trials to eliminate the newly born gods. However, their parents did not want to destroy the beings they had created. This information leaked and reached the ears of NP, the wisest god of the previous generation, who was skilled in a powerful sleep spell and decided to act. Anki, eager to save his siblings, focused his energy and quickly cast the spell. Soon after, their great-grandfather fell into a deep sleep. When Anki flew to his side, he removed the great-grandfather's radiant cloak and draped it over himself, took off the great-grandfather's crown, and placed it on his own head. Then he performed the spell, sending the great-grandfather into an abyss and dropping him a meter before and after. At this moment, the great-grandmother decided to take action. She had to deal with Anki and ensure that Apsu would awaken. Thus, a battle of monumental proportions erupted between the great-grandmother's faction and Anki's. In the end, the great-grandmother's side triumphed. She merged her body parts with various elements, creating the sky, mountains, clouds, rivers, and oceans. She herself became the new ruler god of the new world. This is the creation process described in the ancient Babylonian myth. The sources of water on Earth, including salty seawater and freshwater, according to ancient Babylonian mythology, come from two different gods. The salty seawater comes from the god Tree-Mep, while freshwater comes from the subordinate god Apsu. In this way, the Babylonians viewed freshwater and seawater as originating from two separate sources, each with its own distinct color and taste. Freshwater was drinkable, whereas seawater was not. The Babylonian creation myth suggests that freshwater and seawater on Earth come from different sources. But how does science explain the origin of water on Earth? The answer may seem a bit strange. To understand it better, this is one of the most scientifically explained issues. Initially, scientists believed that when Earth formed 4.6 billion years ago, the environment was extremely hot, resembling a giant furnace, so water could not exist in liquid form. However, around 3.8 billion years ago, about 800 million years after Earth formed, the planet's temperature began to cool down. This was followed by a phase known as the Late Heavy Bombardment, during which meteorites bombarded Earth. The water environment on Earth was formed around that time, with both seawater and freshwater originating from the ice carried by comets. This idea became widely popular, and as people were about to turn imagination into truth, conflicting evidence eventually appeared in 1986. The European Space Agency, ESA, launched a probe that flew past Halley's Comet at close range, becoming the first spacecraft to observe a comet up close. The data sent back from the spacecraft revealed that the heavy hydrogen content in the water of Halley's Comet was different from that of water on Earth. Heavy hydrogen, a form of hydrogen with an additional neutron in its nucleus, was the key difference between the water on Halley's Comet and the water on Earth. This raised a major question about the theory that the ice of comets was the source of water on Earth. So where does Halley's Comet come from? It originates from the Oort cloud in the outer reaches of the solar system, a cloud filled with icy celestial bodies. The Oort cloud is shaped like a spherical cloud surrounding the solar system, positioned at an extremely far distance. The distance from Halley's Comet to the Sun is 5,000 to 100,000 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. After observing Halley's Comet, scientists also monitored several other comets from the Oort cloud, and their conditions were similar to Halley's Comet. The water on them had a different composition from the water on Earth. Therefore, current hypotheses have ruled out the possibility that comets in the Oort cloud are the source of Earth's water. However, experts have not given up, as just because Halley's Comet couldn't be the source doesn't mean other comets can't. They have thus focused on comets closer to the Sun, in the Kuiper Belt. The distance from the Kuiper Belt to the Sun is about 30 to 55 times the distance from Earth to the Sun, much closer than the Oort cloud. Scientists hoped to find the source of Earth's water in the comets of the Kuiper Belt. So, in 2004, the European Space Agency, ESA, launched the RobotStar spacecraft with the goal of landing on a comet from the Kuiper Belt, identified as Comet 67P. This project was successful, but the results were disappointing. The heavy hydrogen content on this comet did not match that of Earth's water. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to leave a comment, hit the like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any upcoming videos. Thank you so much. The water on this comet has an even higher hydrogen content than Halley's Comet, 3 times the amount of hydrogen in Earth's water. Scientists have observed many comets, but none have had water similar to that on Earth. The story about the water in these comets is very intriguing and could likely lead to a new direction for studying the origin of water on Earth. A new theory suggests that the idea of Dak combining the body of the ancient grandmother, the goddess of saltwater, with other elements to create Earth is quite fascinating, as it has both water and rock. Therefore, it is believed that the origin of Earth's water may be found in the evidence within rocks. Initially, many geologists mocked Magic's hypothesis, thinking it was too far-fetched. Geology suggests that Earth is a constantly changing body that can recycle materials from the Earth's crust, with these materials being abundant in the mantle under high temperature and pressure. These recycled materials are then brought to the surface through volcanic eruptions, and once cooled, they become part of the new crust. Therefore, the Earth's crust itself is a continuous cycle. Finding material from Earth's early days on the surface, meaning material from more than 4 billion years ago, is a very difficult task. There was an ancient period known as the Archean Eon, which lasted from about 4.5 billion to 3.8 billion years ago. Scientists believe this period was Earth's hellish furnace because volcanoes on the Earth's surface continuously erupted, spewing lava everywhere, compounded by constant meteorite bombardment. It was truly a hell, perhaps even worse than hell itself. However, the Earth's surface today holds no trace of that era. Therefore, when Morris suggested that evidence of Earth's early water formation might be found in rocks, virtually no geologists paid attention to his words. However, by 2001, Magic's ideas were put into practice by a research team in the Jake Mountains. This team, a collaboration between the University of California and Princeton University, discovered ancient rock crystals dating back 4.4 billion years. This discovery drew significant attention, as it provided rare chemical traces from the early days of Earth's formation, about 100 million years after the planet's creation. Through measurements of oxygen isotope elements in these ancient rock crystals, the research team gathered crucial data. The research has discovered evidence showing that liquid water once existed on Earth. The research team hypothesizes that around 4.36 billion years ago, oceans or freshwater lakes covered at least some areas of the Earth's surface. Why do they say this? Because over the 17 years from 2001 to 2017, more than half of the sedimentary rocks collected by the research team displayed characteristics of interaction between water and rock. For example, some sedimentary rocks showed chemical features after being eroded and forming clay. Other rocks exhibited properties of dissolved minerals and soluble fines, which clearly indicates the presence of water. Morris was overjoyed to finally find this evidence, as this discovery supports the hypothesis that Earth's oceans and fresh water did not solely originate from the comet bombardment 3.8 billion years ago. These minerals suggest that the origins of water on Earth occurred much earlier than the comet impact. So, beyond comets, what other explanations could there be for the presence of water on Earth? What is the origin of water on Earth? The Italian astronomer and mathematician Alessandro Morbidelli proposed a very unique planetary formation theory. Although it is called the planetary formation theory, it also explains the origin of water. Before him, planetary scientists, while studying the formation of planets in the solar system, typically focused on the 4 planets closest to the Sun: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. When Morbidelli was a student, he felt that this model was not quite fitting, as he believed that the 8 major planets in the solar system appeared as a whole and that there must be connections between them. Therefore, The study had to include all of them in one system to properly investigate. Through computer simulations, Mobandelli proposed a new theory. He suggested that in the early solar system, the orbital region of today's 8 major planets was not only occupied by 8 planets, but approximately 15 smaller planets. After their formation, they orbited the Sun within a range of about 235 million kilometers from the Sun. Meaning that within the orbit of Mars today, due to relatively high temperatures, means that the region is made up of dry planets. In contrast, the area beyond 235 million kilometers, where planets are farther out, experiences lower temperatures, allowing these planets to retain water, making them wetter. In the early stages, these 15 smaller planets, under the influence of gravity and through interactions with each other, gradually combined and formed larger planets. These larger planets began to attract dust and gases from the universe, gradually forming even bigger planets. Notably, the emergence of Jupiter and Saturn completely disrupted the existing balance. Jupiter's mass is more than 300 times that of Earth, and Saturn's mass is 95 times greater than Earth's, much larger than the asteroids in the early stages. Both Saturn and Jupiter moved toward the Sun, dragging the wetter planets toward the drier ones. The dry planets, pulled by Jupiter, also moved toward the wetter planets. The planets continued to shift and collide with each other, ultimately leading to the phenomenon of drought. When the wet and dry planets merged to form a new group of planets, one of them was the primordial Earth. Therefore, the water on Earth and the oceans on Earth originated from the wet planets of the early solar system. Mobandelli's theory can explain the challenging issue of heavy hydrogen ratios. Furthermore, there are real observational data that support this, such as the asteroid Vesta, a dwarf planet located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, which originates from a primordial asteroid. Moreover, the water on Vesta has a heavy hydrogen ratio identical to that of water on the surface of Earth. However, there remains a difficult issue to address. Over 10 million years after Earth formed, another major event occurred: the formation of the Earth-Moon system. The Moon appeared. It is commonly believed that Earth was struck by a large planet, similar to Mars. A mass of material was ejected, and then the Earth-Moon system formed. However, the problem arises. When Earth was struck, the temperature on Earth was extremely high, and the primordial oceans on Earth, along with rivers and lakes, evaporated. They could not escape this fate. So how did the bodies of water on Earth manage to return once the Earth began to cool down? On this issue, Mobandelli did not offer an answer, but Magic proposed his own explanation. Magic's reasoning is as follows. After Earth was struck, although the lava had high temperatures flowing on the surface, it actually absorbed water very well. Like sponges, they absorbed large amounts of water. After cooling down, the lava solidified into volcanic rock, and the water was stored in these rocks. Over time, the water in the volcanic rocks gradually evaporated, forming the oceans. Once this issue was resolved, Mr. Morris gathered the research of several scientists and imagined the process of the Earth's water formation as follows. 2 wet planets, one with a lot of fresh water and the other with a lot of salty water, collided and created a planet with abundant water, both salty and fresh. And then, this new planet, colliding with a dry planet in the current Earth's orbit, the result of this collision formed the Earth we know today. After drawing this conclusion, Mr. Morris was amazed to find that the process he had theorized about the formation of water regions on Earth unintentionally matched the Babylonian creation myth. The saltwater goddess Kiaz and the freshwater god Aftsu combined to give birth to the first generation of gods, much like two wet planets, one containing fresh water and the other containing salt water. When these two planets collided, they created a new planet with water. Then, the next generation of gods, Anki and Ma, during the process of creation, combined part of the saltwater goddess's body with other elements, creating the oceans and other structures on Earth's surface today, which are also the origin of water on Earth today. However, the freshwater god was buried beneath the Earth's surface and became a reservoir of underground freshwater. Mr. Morris automatically overlooked this detail in the myth because, according to modern scientific reasoning, this is considered impossible, as it goes against conventional understanding. The geological theory suggests that the mantle beneath Earth's crust, with its high temperature and immense pressure, makes it extremely difficult to retain water. Therefore, it is not possible for water to accumulate in the mantle. While Mr. Morris was still pondering how to combine various hypotheses about the formation of water on Earth into a perfect theory, a new piece of information emerged from the mantle's rock layers, suggesting that there might indeed be water. In 2022, a research team led by Professor Stephen Jacobson, the University of Nottingham, discovered that tungsten, a type of ore found in the mantle, could hold water at depths of 600 to 1,000 kilometers beneath Earth's surface, in an area known as the transition zone. Moreover, the total amount of water was astonishingly large, 3 times the total amount of water on Earth's surface. When Mr. Morris heard this news, he was truly astonished. This could only be described as being exactly like the mythology, where the freshwater god was pushed down into the deep abyss of the earth. So, could the creation myth have predicted the origin of water on Earth? This question to this day remains unexplained, leaving everyone puzzled by this remarkable coincidence. Mabendele's theory of the solar system's formation suggests that most of the water on Earth came from the collisions and reassembly of asteroids in the early solar system. Additionally, a small portion might have originated from the primordial celestial bodies of the solar system, equivalent to the parents of the celestial bodies in today's solar system, with a tiny fraction possibly coming from comets. During Earth's development, most of the water was locked within deep rock layers for a long period. The difference between the Babylonian myth and this theory lies in the fact that the myth introduces the role of gods into every part of the process, where the merging and collision of celestial bodies are described as a process of gods being born and conflicting with each other. So, what do you think? Is the myth prophetic science, or has science validated the myth? The more familiar something is, the more it becomes an eternal mystery. What are your thoughts? If you'd like, share your thoughts in the comments below the video, and that will conclude today's discussion. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to share it with a friend. Thank you very much, and see you next time.